Today, we're going to be talking about allocated bourbons and how much you should be paying for each of them. Let's get into it. Hello everyone, welcome back to Brad's Bourbon Reviews. I'm Brad, and today we're going to be talking about allocated bottles. I've had this question come up quite a few times, like, hey man, I found an E.H. Taylor small batch for $250, should I buy it? Hey, I found a Pappy Van Winkle for $750, should I buy it? And so I get it asked enough, and actually this was a requested video. So I'm going to tell you what I think is the max price I would pay for each one of these allocated bottles. So before we get even into this, yes, retail is like the actual correct answer, but unfortunately, for a lot of people, that's just not feasible. If you live in Florida, you have access to the ABC Vault and a few other places like Publix and Walmart liquor stores that do drops and stuff. So lucky for us in Florida, we have a few outlets to get stuff at a relatively inexpensive price. But for a lot of people, that's just simply not an option. A lot of people have like one or two liquor stores in their town. They go to them and, you know, Buffalo Trace Antique Collection is $2,500 for a George T. Stagg. That's crazy. Don't do that. There are other solutions as well, like secondary pages and like local Facebook pages and those kinds of things that do exist that might be able to help you find some of these. But again, this video's purpose is to kind of be like a buyer's guide for allocation so you don't overspend. I'll even give examples of times that I've overspent and what I would pay for it, like looking back on. So let's go ahead and get into these. I'm going to kind of do these like not necessarily bottle by bottle, but like lineup by lineup. So we're going to start first with E.H. Taylor. So first up here, we have the E.H. Taylor lineup. I don't have all of the E.H. Taylor bottles. I'm missing quite a few of the more rare ones, but I have the basic lineup. I have E.H. Taylor small batch, single barrel, straight rye, barrel proof, and barrel proof rye. This one I have not opened yet, but this is by far the most expensive one I've paid for. I got my first E.H. Taylor ever at the Buffalo Trace Distillery. I'm pretty sure it was around $55 to $60. I feel like these are a lot more common now than they used to be. I know a lot of people used to overspend on E.H. Taylor, and I think some people still do. So here's what I feel about E.H. Taylor small batch in particular. I think if you can find it anywhere under $85, it's a buy. I know they kind of recently went up on prices. I just got one again the other day at Publix, and it was like $65. Honestly, out of the entire E.H. Taylor lineup that I have had, I can't speak for this one yet, but I don't hear great things, just to be transparent. I think the E.H. Taylor small batch is the best. I'll go by each bottle and tell you what I think you should pay max for. Already spoke on the E.H. Taylor small batch. E.H. Taylor single barrel, I would give it up to $90. They are single barrels, so there was more inherent value there. And one of the cool things about E.H. Taylor bottles and a lot of Buffalo Trace stuff in general is there are laser codes on these. So a lot of that information that you want to see on these, like date it was bottled, those kinds of things, there actually is information on these. So you can kind of see that. So I think $90 for E.H. Taylor single barrel is the way to go. I don't think that's much higher than like, what is the MSRP? So the going rate for these is around $80, I think is the MSRP according to Buffalo Trace. So I mean, you're kind of close there. I don't think these are really worth overpaying for. The few that I have had in the past have just been okay. I've always kind of gone back to the small batch and thought it was a little bit better. But I totally get for collecting purposes, you'd probably want to have the entire lineup. So I totally understand people that want that. I'm one of those people as well, so I totally get it. E.H. Taylor Straight Rye. This one is MSRP's at $80 as well. So these two are like roughly the same price. I mean, and keep in mind too, these prices do change from market to market, but this is just straight from Sazerac. But I think that would probably be what I would pay for this because this is not a very solid rye. It's just okay. I have not gone back to it, as you can see, in a very long time. Really, since I opened it, I kind of don't really like it all that much. It's fine. But if you're interested in collecting it and all that stuff, totally understand. So E.H. Taylor barrel proof. This one, MSRP is at $79.99, so $80 as well for this one. This one, though, is a little different because I think these are really, really good, and it would kind of be dependent on the batch itself because some of them are great, some of them are just okay, some of them are exceptional. This is batch 13, I think this is last year's E.H. Taylor. I forget. I'd have to look, and I don't remember. But this one is really, really good. The one that I have that's after that, the next year's batch, wasn't quite as good as this one. I still think you could probably spend around $120, $125, maybe up to $150 if you really, really, really wanted it. But anything past $150, I think you're going to be a little disappointed in the quality of it. I don't think it's worth, the $400, $500, $600 that people were selling it for just a few years ago. So keep that in mind. A really solid bottle, but it very much depends on which batch it is. And then this one right here, I can't speak on, but I overspent on this quite a bit. And I think I ended up paying like all in like $600. This was a special one for me and my fiance. It's a special release from them. I was willing to pay a little bit more to get that because E.H. Taylor means a lot to us. So I wanted to have this one for a wedding day kind of thing. So I was totally fine with spending that much money on this bottle, even if it's not great, because I don't really care. I wanted it for the collection. So moving on to the next lineup here. All right, up next here, we have the Jack Daniel's 10, 12, and 14 lineup. These are some of my favorite bourbons of all time. They are absolutely phenomenal. I think that any batch you get of these, you'll be very, very happy with. Obviously, there's only one batch of the 14 so far, unless you have one of those bottles from like 1940 or whatever it was. This is the first batch of the Jack Daniel's 14, but this is batch 4 of Jack Daniel's 10 year and batch 1 of 12 year. I just grabbed bottles. I don't really think it matters too much. There are different batch variations, but I have never had one of them that was bad. Even the 14, I've kind of come around a little bit to. I still don't love it. I still think the 12 this year is superior to the 14. That's my own personal opinion. But what should you pay for these if you find these in the wild? So Jack 10 retails around $70 to $80 depending on the market. The 12 year is $95 and the 14 is around $150. So I think my rule of thumb for these is I won't spend anything over $120 on the Jack Daniel's 10s. I won't spend a penny over $150 for the 12 year. And honestly, I would spend around $220 to $200 to get another one of the Jack Daniel's 14s. You have to understand, I am a huge Jack Daniel's fan, and I also have the fortune to have a ton of the 10 and 12. I think I have like 9 bottles in total, and that's just backups. That's not including the open batches. I have quite a bit of these, so it would be hard for me to spend more than that on these, but I think just if you're going quality and you want something really, really good, like I think spending $150 on a 12 year from Jack Daniel's, and it could be any batch. You'd be happier in general with paying something like that than you would for, maybe like an Elmer Teely or something like that, which may be on this list. So that's the top I would pay for the 10, 12, and 14. Moving on to the next lineup. All right, next up we have just some miscellaneous bottles from Buffalo Trace. Not a part of a lineup necessarily, but these are all bottles that are highly sought after from Buffalo Trace and have different varying levels of quality. So let's start here with the first one. Even with all the access I have to allocation in the state of Florida, I very rarely see these. I saw this yesterday in the ABC Vault and it was retailed $64.99. So that's what the MSRP is. These are still super hard to find. So I totally understand someone splurging. And of these bottles right here, again, I have a ton of Stag, so I'm a little biased here, but I'm going to try to be as objective as possible. I think the most I would spend on a Rock Hill Farms would be about $125 to $150. I think it's still in that area where like it's tiptoeing to be not worth the price as far as the quality of what's in the bottle. But it's kind of close. Like Rock Hill Farms is like a much better version of Blanton's. A little more age, a little more proof. They're really, really solid. The packaging is like second to none. These things are absolutely stunning. So I totally get someone wanting to splurge. I would be very tempted to buy one even at $150, but I think I would not be able to do it just because I've had them and I have one already. So yeah, that's what I would pay for Rock Hill Farms. Stag is a tough one for me because I love Stag. It's one of my favorite things that Buffalo Trace makes, and they vary a lot from batch to batch. So some batches I would spend a lot of money on. Some I would just kind of walk away from. Some of the earlier ones are kind of what I'm more interested in right now. A lot of the juniors. I only have one junior, and I think it's batch 9. So anything around that is going to be a little bit more expensive just because it doesn't really exist anymore. So you kind of have to look at it the way like, are Star Wars action figures really worth $5,000 in the package? No, but there's not a lot of them, so it drives the value up. Kind of the same thing with these older bourbons, and I totally understand why someone was like, I would not pay that. I get it. I would pay some money for some of the older Stags, but we're talking current Stag. You walk into a store and you see the newest release of Stag on the shelf. What should you pay for it? And this one's kind of an anomaly because these are around $65 to $70 MSRP depending on your market. I've seen them as low as $65, which is what I paid on the last one. I think I actually even paid $55 like a year ago at Walmart. But I see these, there's a store right down the street from me that has them on sale for $329. They're out of their mind. You should never pay $329 for a Stag. I almost would say, unless it's batch 1, you probably shouldn't pay that for any batch of Stag. But if you go in and see Stag at a store and it's $150 or less, my rule is you buy it at $150 or less. Anything over that, I think you're overpaying for what's in the bottle. Some of them are a little hotter profiles. People may or may not like them. So for me, Stag is kind of a try before you buy. Don't fall into the Stag hype. Try it before you buy it because it really just might not be for you. Last one here we have is Elmer Teely. They just recently doubled the price of these. When I first got into whiskey, I got my first Elmer Teely for, it was either $39.99 or $44.99. I can't remember. It was something really inexpensive. Now these are up to $79.99. I saw this in the ABC Vault just a few weeks ago for $79, and I was like, I can't do that. So the most I would pay now that price has jumped up, that kind of changes things because the MSRP's changed, so you kind of have to scoot your scale up a little bit. The most I would pay for an Elmer Teely is $100. I'll be completely transparent with you. I don't love El Martili. I think it's just okay. I really liked it when I first had it, but the more I've gotten into bourbon, the less appealing this is to my palate. It is not bad by any means, but I think anything over $100 you're going to be disappointed with. Let's move on to the next lineup here. I forgot to include this one when I did the Jack Daniel's 10, 12, and 14, and I just missed it sitting down here. This is Jack Daniel's Coy Hill. This is not a hazmat Coy Hill. This is just a 125 proof. These MSRP for $79.99. I got mine at Walmart for that exact price. I got 2 that day. Very, very fortunate, very lucky. That's a funny story. I'll have to tell it some other time on the show. These are really, really sought after, and I gotta be honest, people really, really overpay for them. I know people really want that over 140 proof. I'm sure they're exceptional, but people spend insane amount of money for Jack Daniel Coy Hills. They are excellent, and I am Jack Daniel's biggest cheerleader. I do not think there's a world where this bottle is worth $350. The $80 price point is like perfectly set. However, with all that said, I think that with the collectability of these and how hard they are to find, I would personally buy one, even though I have 2 of them. I would buy another one at the drop of a hat at $150. I think $150 is an appropriate price for this. Yes, it's almost double MSRP. Whenever I'm giving a price like this too, I am also letting you know that I think what's in the bottle is worth that money. I think that it's worth $150. These are really, really good bottles of Jack Daniels. They're just excellent. So if you ever find one around that price, you should grab it. Moving on to the next lineup. I've messed up this one too. I forgot to add this one with the miscellaneous Buffalo Trace one. This is Eagle Rare. This is one of the ones for me that is the easiest to find. That is an allocated bottle. These are popping up all over the place. Even this week, they've been popping up. Eagle Rare is a bottle that I kind of use as a warm-up. I even use it as a mixer a lot of the times. It's a really good bottle. It's not going to change your life unless this is something your palate just like attracts to. It's a good bourbon. It's 90 proof. This right here is a single barrel pick. Ignore that. I'm not talking about that. I just don't know where my other one is. This one's hard for me because I do really, really enjoy Eagle Rare. It's one of my favorite go-to bourbons. I don't recommend it a lot because everybody knows about it, so it's kind of not worth mentioning because everyone knows and has heard about Eagle Rare, right? It recently had like an increase in price as well. I used to be able to find it for $30 at Walmart. Now I think it's around $40. It's worth that all day. I don't think you spend over $90 on an Eagle Rare. The only exception would be is if it's a single barrel pick, because those are very unique. They're different than the traditional Eagle Rares, and in a lot of cases, people had to put a lot of money up for them, so I totally understand. So I would say no more than $90 on a Eagle Rare. And moving on to the next one. All right, this is a bottle that everyone is kind of talking about right now because of the Old Fitzgerald 7-year. This is an Old Fitzgerald 10-year. This is the beautiful decanter bottle that everyone loves. Everyone thinks it's gorgeous, myself included. But these, I see these still marked up to crazy amounts. The 19 was the first one of these I ever saw in a liquor store, and it was for $4,500. You are out of your mind if you're spending that much money on a bottle of Old Fitzgerald. These MSRP for around $199. And the most I would spend on this is about $250. I think it's easily $50. You have some wiggle room there because you get this beautiful decanter, and what's in the bottle is actually really freaking delicious. These are aged so well. These are 10-year bottled in bonds, so it's 100 proof. It really is a really solid bottle. So this is one of those ones for me where it's like hype matched the level of quality in the bottle, and I really think that is a reasonable enough price for a 10-year. This is the only one I can comment on. I have never had the 11, the 12, and I did have the very, very special a few days ago, and that one is a different conversation. That one I would spend serious money on because it is unbelievably good. It's one of the best bourbons I've ever had in my entire life. It's insane. But for this one right here, the 10-year, I think $250 is about what you should pay. Moving on to the next lineup here. All right, next up here, we have what is affectionately known as the Weller Rainbow. I have a bottle of William LaRue Weller that we will get to shortly here because I'm including that in a different lineup. This is the Weller lineup. So we have Special Reserve, 12-year, Antique 107, CYPB. CYPB stands for Craft Your Perfect Bourbon. Weller Single Barrel, and a Weller Full Proof. This one is a barrel pick, but again, I'm not talking about barrel picks right now. I will caveat that here in a second. And actually, my Special Reserve is a barrel pick too, which is kind of weird. I didn't know they did that. What should you pay for each one of these bottles of Weller? This is a tough conversation because this is one of the most sought after lineups in bourbon. I'm going to just kind of briefly go through these. I'm not going to do reviews of them because there's no need to. There's plenty of reviews over on YouTube about the Weller lineup. But out of all of them, the Special Reserve, the 107, and the Full Proof are my favorites. They also just recently upped the price on all of these. So the Weller Special Reserve used to be $29.99 at ABC by my house. It is now, I think, $40. The Weller 12-year has gone up too. I haven't seen the MSRP on that in a while. 107 is now $80. So is Craft Your Perfect Bourbon. The single barrels, I believe, are $90, and then the Full Proof, I believe, is around $85. So what should you spend? For Weller Special Reserve, I think I honestly wouldn't spend over MSRP because they've already raised the price on it quite a bit. I think at $45, that's where I stop buying Weller Special Reserve because honestly, I use it as a mixer quite a bit. Again, only exception would be the single barrels because of how rare they are. And then I would only add 10 or $15 on top of that. So Weller 12 year, I really like it. I think it's an underrated bottle of bourbon. I don't see a lot of people talking about it when they talk about the Weller lineup, and maybe they do and don't pay attention. But I really, really enjoy Weller 12 year, really cherry forward notes, but it's phenomenal. I wouldn't pay more than $15 over MSRP for this one. Same goes for the Antique 107. CYPB, this one is like a special place in my heart because I never thought I would ever own one of these just because of how hard Weller is to get in Florida. And when I got into the ABC Vault for the first time, it was the first bottle I ever got out of there. And I was just like, I could not believe it. I think I paid $45 for it back in the day. This was years ago. But I think I paid $45 for it, or $40. It was something very inexpensive, and $50, something like that. I just couldn't believe that I had finally gotten one. So it's hard for me, but I think $150 would be about what you would pay for that, and that's honestly a little over what the quality of the bottle is because the bottle's fine. It's good. It's just as good as any of the other ones. It doesn't stand out really. It's just kind of a good bottle. I think I would not spend over $150 for that one. Weller single barrel. Again, this is a tough conversation because what's in the bottle is terrible, but I understand how rare and hard these are to find. This is my least favorite of the Weller lineup, and it's not even close. Like, it is not even close how bad this one is to the rest of them in comparison. I really think that I wouldn't spend over MSRP. I really don't. I know these are really hard to come by, and that's blasphemy maybe. Try this one and tell me that I'm wrong. It's really not great. So whatever MSRP, I think $75 to $90 is what MSRP on it. I wouldn't spend a penny over that just for drinking. It's not good. Complete the collection, sure, maybe $150, but to drink, no, not spending over MSRP. Weller Foolproof. If you're talking store picks, I would add about 10 to $15 to it. So I would probably pay up to $170 for a Weller Foolproof if I absolutely had to. I'm in a position right now I don't need to, so I probably wouldn't. But I think that's about as high as I would go on a Weller Foolproof, and that's with the store pick price. So I would say really $140 would be what I would pay for Weller Foolproof. Moving on to the next lineup. But before we get any further into this video, we need to thank today's sponsor, me. This episode is brought to you by my Patreon. If you like the videos that you see here over on YouTube, there is a cool little community over on Patreon. We have 2 tiers available currently right now. The other ones are sold out. We have a $5 tier, which will give you access to 2 extra videos for Patreon and 2 audio exclusive episodes of the podcast each month. You also get early access to the videos that I do post. Basically, I'm a one-man team. So basically, when I post a video, it goes to Patreon almost immediately. There's also a $10 tier, which gets you everything that the first tier does, plus access first to barrel picks. You get to dictate the videos you want to see. There are polls. There's a lot of fun over there. If you are so inclined and you like this channel and you'd like to support a smaller content creator, head on over to the link in the description. You can check out the Patreon. Thank you guys for watching, and back to the video. All right, let's talk Wild Turkey here. We have 2 bottles from Wild Turkey. This is the Russell's Reserve 15 year, and this is the Russell's Reserve Camp Nelson B. 2 of my favorite bottles from last year. I think they are both high quality, exceptional bottles. And honestly, the MSRP on these is pretty expensive. I think they both are in the $250 range. I know this one's $250 because that's what I spent on this bottle. I believe this one's $250 as well. So what would I pay for these, man? This one's tough because I think when you're already starting at $250, it's hard to justify a lot more than that. However, these are both really good bottles, and I think I actually like this one over this one, and it's just a better mouthfeel. They're just kind of different to compare anyway, but comparing the 2 of them, since they were released from the same distillery as special releases, I would personally pay this one. I would go $350 for this one, and I'd honestly go $350 for both because I think the years past, what's gone is gone, what's left is left. I think I would pay $350 for either one of these if I saw them out in public again. Yes, you're spending over $100 on MSRP, but what's in here is going to be great, and these are special pours, so you are going to really enjoy both of these. So I think that's a fair, very fair thing to pay for these. I shouldn't say fair because MSRP would be fair, but I think reasonable is what I should say. All right, up next we have some of the Van Winkle lineup. I don't have a 15, 20, or 23. I have not had the entire lineup, so I'm only going to speak to these 2 bottles right here. So first up, we have the Old Rip Van Winkle 10 year and the Old Rip Van Winkle Lot B 12 year. This one is a massive step down from this one, in my opinion. Of these 2, this one is exceptional. Don't get fooled by the age statement on these because the 10 is far superior. It comes in at a higher proof. They bottle this one at 107 and bottle this one at 90 something. It's the only one in the Van Winkle lineup that is lower, that is bottled at that proof. It's 90.7 proof, I believe. 90.4 proof. It is just leaps and bounds better. Now, these are really tough because the secondary prices on these are so fucking insane. These regularly go for $675, $700. These go for more than that. I've seen recently these sell for like $1,200 It's insanity. My personal take would be, I don't think I'd buy another one of these above, like more than $50 above MSRP. These MSRP for $149.99 now, which is nuts that it's gone up to that much. Let's be real. If I walked into a liquor store and I saw this for $250, I'm buying it. So $250 would be the most I'd pay for a 12-year. This one, on the other hand, I like it so much better than this one that I would definitely pay more to have this over this. I would say the most I would spend on this, and it's only because of the rarity and only because of secondary price. I would spend $325 on a bottle of Old Rip 10-year. No questions asked. I would easily do that. It's one of my favorite bottles of all time. I love Old Rip 10-year. It is a really, really solid bottle, and I really like it. So if that was the case, if I walked into a liquor store and saw it for that and set on the shelf, I'd have to say yes. Moving on to the next lineup. All right, on to another one of the most honest to God overrated bourbon lineups on the planet. This is Blanton's. This is a Canadian exclusive special reserve, or like a foreign exclusive. I heard Canadian exclusives. I just keep saying Canadian exclusive. I think it's just like an international version. This is a lower proof special reserve. This is just the traditional Blanton's, the normal one that everyone was freaking out over for a few years. This is Blanton's Gold, and this is Blanton's straight from the barrel. This is the only one at barrel proof. So, what would I buy these for again? You couldn't give me this for free. I would not pay for one even at MSRP. I think they are absolutely terrible. I don't like them at all. The special reserves are very, very, very disappointing, and I honestly don't even want it in frame. No, I will keep it in frame. Fine. Regular Blantons, these are starting to become way more available. I just saw the other day that at a Target near me, they were putting out, made a space for it. I don't know if they were gone by the time I got there or if they were about to be in stock. Was really kind of crazy. They were on sale for $59.99, and I'll throw the photo I took into the video. $59.99. So for $60 all day, I wouldn't spend a penny over $100 on these at this point. They are so readily available, and the price will come down because there's so many more of them. So don't overspend on regular Blantons. Now, you want to talk about Blanton's Gold. This is my favorite of the entire Blanton's lineup, outside of one of the Takagi cask, whatever that one is. I had that recently, and it was the best bottle I've ever had. But as far as the lineup that I have and can attest to because I actually own the bottle, Blanton's Gold is by far the best one. It is just, for me, the best balance of palate to nose and just everything I like. And I think it's honestly like a perfect bourbon. It's fantastic. So for this one, I would probably spend, this one MSRP is I think for $149. I would spend $225. I think would be the most I would spend on one of these. And if you're talking about a store pick of the Gold, I would probably spend $240. I think they are really, really good. And if you see it for around that price, trust me, you can do a lot worse at MSRP for $250 than you can on Blanton's Gold. It's really solid. Blanton straight from the barrel. Hardest one to come by. Pretty rare. I see these a little bit more now. I have a really higher proof one. I have 133.1, which is one of the higher ones I've seen. I like it, but I don't like it as much as I like the Blanton's Gold bottle for bottle. They are around the same MSRP. I think these are $165 now. I'd pay $200 for one. I don't love them as much as I love the Gold, so I think that's about what I would pay. If you wanted to stretch it, $215, I think. I wouldn't buy one of these before I could buy one of these, in my own personal opinion. So whatever you have to do, whatever math you have to do to make that work, I think this one's the way to go. Moving on to the next lineup. All right, last little part of the lineup here. This is the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection. People go crazy for these bottles, and rightfully so. They are some of the best bourbons I've ever had. Some are better than others for sure. So I have had multiple William LaRue Wellers. I haven't had it in quite a long time. This is the one, I think this and Eagle Rare 17 are the ones that people flip out about the most because of the rarity, and that's understandable. My personal preference of everything I've had, I've always preferred George C. Stagg to William LaRue Weller. I do very much enjoy William LaRue Weller, and I will continue to love William LaRue Weller. I love it very much. Same with Thomas H. Handy. I really like Thomas H. Handy. Probably like mid of what I've had. The only thing I haven't had from Buffalo Trace Antique Collection now at this point is the Eagle Rare 17. All of these now are right around $200 MSRP. I think it's like $185 was what I spent on my William LaRue Weller a few weeks ago. Honestly, I wouldn't spend more than $350 on a Thomas H. Handy. For $350, I think there's better stuff in rye whiskey you can spend your money on. It's fine if you really want it, but I think that's about my top end that I would pay for a Thomas H. Handy. Now, George T. Stagg is one of my favorite bottles of all time. I've had multiple batches of it. It just is like perfect for my palate. That being said, I still don't think these are worth quite what they go for on the secondary. Like $600 is a lot of money. I think if you're buying a bottle in person, the most I would spend would be like $450. $150 because I think that these are just going to become more and more readily available. Like a few years ago, they started flooding. You could find them easily. And I mean, you know, I'm talking about within the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, easily find these. Not just walk into a store and there's 50 of them on a shelf. Not like that. I'm not saying that kind of easy, but I'm just saying like as far as rare goes, it was relatively easy to find these. William Blue Weller is a completely different story because I live in Florida. The only store that carries Weller products is the ABC family-owned chain. So getting a Weller of any type is exceedingly difficult because only one store can sell it, and they put everything in the vault except the special reserve. So this one is like, I've only ever seen it the one time I've ever seen it in the vault when I've been invited, and I was lucky enough, scrambled, got it, and you know, very happy. So for me, it's a little different, but if I'm going to just say blanket statement, I think you could probably spend... It's hard because I would rather buy a George C. Stagg than a Weller just based on flavor, but if you're factoring in the rarity of it, and like especially in Florida, I would spend $600 on a WLW, I think. It'd be hard, but I think I would do it just because of how hard it is for me to get these. It took me 2 years and about 30 or 40 different tries to get one. So I think I would just to you know, have a backup of it. I don't know when I'm opening this. I think I might wait for our wedding day, which isn't going to be far. I don't know. We'll see. This is my take on what I would spend on these bottles. Hope it was kind of a fun video. I want to hear from you guys. Comment down below. What would you spend on any of these bottles? What's the most you would ever spend on a bottle? I know there's some people out there who are like, I will not spend a penny over $100 on any bottle on the planet. I understand. I think you're missing out on some really cool stuff, but if it doesn't bother you, then it shouldn't bother me, and it doesn't. So comment down below, let me know what you think, and while you're down there, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, cheers. A big thank you to all the Patreon supporters you see on screen right now.